My daily job is to please women and coax them into giving me their money bit by bit. Occasionally, I also fulfill their other needs physically. However, my friend Dwight, who introduced me to this business, warned me that I can't control what you do with others, but there's one thing you must remember: never accept delivery service. Other delivery services deliver food, while our delivery service delivers ourselves. One night, a wealthy woman ordered me for exclusive service in her private room. When I walked into the room, she was already waiting for me eagerly. She wore a tight white dress that accentuated her perfect figure with delicate features and long legs. Today's wealthy woman turned out to be beautiful, too. I was excited because who wouldn't want a beautiful woman? "What are you looking at? Come over here." Before coming here, I had asked about this wealthy woman named Diane, rich and fun loving. I smiled as I approached her and sat next to her while she snuggled up against my chest. "How would you like sister tonight?" she asked flirtatiously. "I'll listen to whatever Diane wants," I replied obediently. Diane smiled slightly and said, "Do you want some cake?" I noticed the cream cake on the table, immediately understood why we were really here. How could we possibly eat cake? I took some cream from the cake onto Diane's hand and joked, "Yes, but more than anything else, I love your cake." Diane blushed slightly as excitement flashed through her eyes. "If you don't finish it cleanly, then I will have to punish you." I nodded before taking a mouthful of cream from my finger, which made Diane blush even more deeply. Before pulling out a wad of cash from her bag and handing it to me. "Your reward." I was delighted. My colleague's words were true: wealthy women are indeed generous. "You've done a good job. Here's your chance. Come home with me tonight for $2,000. I was stunned for a few seconds, thinking I had misheard her. $2,000? What's wrong? Is that too little? You have quite the appetite," she teased. "It's not too little. It's just that I have something else going on tonight. Maybe next time," I explained hastily. Diane looked disappointed. "Think about it carefully and let me know when you're ready." "Okay, thank you, Diane." After finishing our service together, I left the room feeling somewhat regretful, as I had turned down an opportunity to make a fortune. At this moment, my phone rang, and it was my mother on the line. "Andrew, do you have $50,000? Hearing that amount, I almost dropped my phone. "Mom, why do you suddenly need $50,000? Didn't I just send you money last week? Your sister's condition suddenly worsened last night, and she needs a major surgery. The hospital won't proceed without payment. The doctor said we should make a decision within a week, or it will be too late. Andrew, please think of something." Hearing my mother crying on the other end of the line made me feel helpless. "Mom, don't worry. I know many friends who can help us raise the money. My sister has been sick since birth and requires medication every year, which costs money. It was because Dwight told me that Midnight Cowbell makes good money that I started doing this job in the first place. But even if Midnight Cowbell makes good money, it still takes time to earn enough for my sister's surgery. Where am I going to find $50,000 now that her condition has suddenly worsened? I'm so desperate that I would sell blood if necessary." In desperation, Diane came to mind going home with her would give me $20,000. If I did it 3 times, then I'd have enough for my sister's operation. This is what she meant to me. I felt like grabbing onto a life-saving straw as I rushed towards her private room. Dwight walked towards me from another direction just as he left one of the rooms there. He put his arm around my shoulder when he saw me. "Brother, where are you headed? Heard you refused to deliver food for some rich woman earlier today? Well done. That's safer anyway. Let me treat you to dinner." I was too anxious about finding a solution for my sister's illness and had no mood to eat with him. "Next time, let me go first." Dwight frowned and asked, "What's wrong? Do you have an emergency?" "My sister is sick and needs money. Let me go." Not only did Dwight not release his grip on my shoulder, he even held onto it tighter. "Are you going to follow that rich woman back?" "Don't worry, we'll find another way to get the money. I told you before that delivering food isn't safe. Don't worry about it. If it wasn't for your sister, of course you wouldn't be in a hurry. Tell me what can be done. Can you give me $50,000? I suddenly shouted at him. For a moment, Dwight was stunned by my outburst and slowly released his grip on my shoulder. You forgot what I said earlier. If you don't want to live anymore, then just leave. My feet stopped moving as I hesitated. Dwight, what if the law catches up with us? Is this really possible in a society governed by laws? Why would I lie to you? Before entering this line of work, would you believe that there are men who like watching their wives cuckolded? They play around so much in hotels, but when they return home, they act all innocent. Dwight's words made me slightly calmer. If something happened to me here, then who would? Earn money for my sister's medication. One of my friends disappeared after delivering food for some wealthy woman. As soon as he mentioned this friend of his experience working as a gigolo or male escort, catering exclusively for women clients, I couldn't move any further towards Diane's private room. 7 days remained until my sister's surgery. Surely there must be another way. The next day, when I arrived at the changing room preparing myself for work, my colleague, Hamilton, was showing off his diamond-studded watch. Andrew, isn't this watch cool? Although I felt a little annoyed by his show-off attitude, it wasn't appropriate to embarrass him in front of others, so I replied casually, That's pretty cool. It must have cost quite a bit. Not much, just a few $100,000. That's expensive. You really are willing to spend that kind of money? I said with genuine surprise. I didn't buy it. It was given to me by one of my clients. For them, this amount is nothing. Thinking about my sister again, I asked for advice. Brother, can you teach me how to make wealthy women spend more money on me? Delivery service. You've been here for several days and still don't know. We only earn peanuts from hotel services, but delivery service is where the real money comes from. Delivery service. Isn't that very dangerous? I expressed concern. Hamilton was first stunned, then burst out laughing. What are you talking about? Everyone does it. What's the danger? Huh. I heard that some delivery guys are like perverts. There are perverts, but they're not easy to come across. Plus, the more difficult it is, the more expensive it gets. You won't regret it. I also heard that rich women tie people up and eat them alive on tables. Hamilton laughed so hard he pounded his chest. Huh. Where did you hear that from? It's just a lie told to newbies so they don't steal our business. Dwight said it. Hamilton's face instantly turned cold. Don't believe anything he says. He doesn't know how many clients of ours he has stolen. I was confused for a moment. Was Dwight lying to me? But he was my brother. He also said his friend disappeared while delivering food. He probably quit after a few days of work. Our job has high turnover rates and is very mobile. Anyway, 8 out of 10 things Dwight says are lies. Hamilton explained to me that Dwight used these horror stories to fool newcomers into stealing their clients and going home with wealthy women for big money. He even urged me to hurry up and go. My heart wavered as I looked at his valuable gold watch in his hand. Regardless of whether or not Dwight had lied to me, delivering food shouldn't be so dangerous. Wasn't Hamilton proof enough? Don't scare yourself unnecessarily, my colleague said before leaving for the night with takeout in hand, but her words only made me more hesitant. Could this really be happening by coincidence? Was I really encountering a pervert? My sister's medical bills couldn't wait any longer. I took a sip of alcohol and entered the private room where Diane lay impatiently swinging her glass back and forth. Have you decided? Are you coming home with me tonight? Hamilton's words kept ringing in my ears. Under the influence of alcohol, I agreed without hesitation. Diane's originally displeased face turned into a blush and a smile. That's more like it. But you made me unhappy yesterday, so there will be punishment. As long as sister is happy, any punishment is fine. I apologized with a smile. Diane excitedly pulled me into a Rolls-Royce and drove us to an extravagant villa by the sea. Sister, what kind of punishment is it? Diane smiled mysteriously and covered my nose with a handkerchief. Soon after, I became dizzy and lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I found myself lying flat on a table surrounded by dishes filled with sauce along with some plates and cutlery, not to mention disgusting seasonings. I didn't understand what was going on at first. Just as I tried to get up, though, Pain struck me hard enough that I couldn't move anymore. My hands and feet were tied up. Anxiety surged through my heart as sobriety hit me instantly. Dwight's words echoed in my mind. Some perverted wealthy women tie men onto tables. The alarm bells rang loudly in my head had I really encountered one. The more scared I got looking around the room, the more convinced that this was true. Before she came back, escaped while possible. I struggled frantically, but only ended up tightening the ropes even further. As much as I tried to calm down or think rationally about how to handle this situation, it was impossible. It was over. It was all over now. Why didn't listen to Dwight? Just when despair took hold of me completely, Diane appeared before me. Her slender fingers traced across my face. I was scared and wanted to cry. She was using her nails to scratch me. But what if she used a knife or fork next? I wouldn't know what to do. Fear made me lose my mind as I begged while crying. Sister, can you please spare me? Diane licked her fingers and said, Of course not. This is punishment. Don't you like it? Sister, can we change the punishment? I want to eat you today, I said. Without hesitation, Diane poured the sauce all over my body. The taste of vinegar and mustard covered every inch of my skin. This was the final step in preparing our meal. As I struggled in terror, the sauce splattered everywhere. But Diane became even more excited as she waved around a kitchen knife. In the end, my entire body felt sore and weak from struggling so much that I didn't want to move anymore. However, I could still hear the sound of knives and forks near my ear. Diane slowly raised her utensils towards me until they were pointing at my thigh root. Scared out of my wits with eyes tightly shut tight, unable to look directly at them. But after a while passed by without any pain coming through, I started feeling strange about it all. Summoning up courage, I opened up when I only to see that Diane had picked up some seafood sashimi dipped in sauce instead of cutting into flesh. She ate it happily, saying, The food has such a manly flavor, it's delicious. Diane's face turned red from eating too much, but she still seemed unsatisfied. She wiped off some mustard which stung when applied on me, causing redness on skin. I gritted teeth, trying hard not to show how painful it was, making sweat pour down from head to toe. My legs couldn't stop trembling either. But for Diane, it seemed like nothing mattered except devouring the sashimi covered in mustard. Finally, Diane was satisfied and handed me the keys to unlock myself. I was still in shock for a while before realizing what had happened. Diane didn't want to eat me. She just enjoyed role-playing and using me as a container for her. Food, it was her fetish. Relieved that I wasn't eaten, I lay weakly on the table trying to comfort myself. It was all just role-playing. Don't scare yourself too much. It wasn't entirely my fault either. Everything happened so suddenly. Diane pulled out a thick stack of red bills and gave them to me, saying, The role-play was good and quite realistic. You're better than those fake men. Let's continue tomorrow. I calmed down, breathed a sigh of relief, but couldn't forget about what had happened earlier. It still sent shivers down my spine. Even if I wanted to refuse, my sister wouldn't allow it. After leaving Diane's house, I went straight to the bank and transferred the money back home. Before finally returning home to wash off the remaining mustard smell from my body, which caused itching and swelling. The next day, Dwight found me and asked, Did you go last night? I hesitated and nodded. Dwight's face darkened. I thought you didn't go. Why did you go again? I tried to explain, but he sighed in resignation. I'm only doing this for your own good. You were lucky this time. It's okay, just don't go next time. I nodded silently without saying much more, although I wasn't sure if Dwight was really trying to steal someone else's lover. As my colleagues had said, the food delivery service definitely wasn't as dangerous as he claimed it to be, at least not life-threatening. That evening, I went to Diane's house again, but this time there were a dozen women surrounding me, with plates of seafood sashimi placed on my body while they poured vinegar and mustard into my mouth like a dish plate. They lifted their delicate fingers and dipped the sashimi into my mouth repeatedly while laughing gleefully at my discomfort. Their strange fetish was beyond comprehension. The whole experience made me feel nauseous and exhausted from being used as human cutlery drenched in vinegar and mustard that almost choked me. However, for the sake of medical expenses, I endured it all. The food delivery service wasn't available every day there. After playing with Diane 3 times, she didn't contact me for a week until she ordered again. As soon as I pushed open the door of her private room that day, Diane threw herself into my arms, exclaiming, "Baby, missed you so much." "Hey, sis," I replied casually, "haven't seen you around lately." "Well," she pouted playfully before continuing coyly, "my husband's been home, so it's hard for me to come out. You haven't eaten well these past few days, right? Little brother will make up for it today." I grabbed a handful of sweet cream and smeared it on her smooth neck. Diane was intoxicated by my touch, her face flushed with excitement. Under my intense attack, she collapsed in my arms and complained, "Can't you eat slower? I can't take it anymore." As I fed her the cream, I noticed someone else in the corner of the room, a woman dressed elegantly in black Chong Sam who exuded an air of sophistication that didn't quite fit into this noisy hotel environment. Judging from her style and demeanor, she must be wealthy. She blushed slightly and seemed unsure where to put her hands, clearly a novice at this sort of thing, but still somewhat cute in her nervousness. "Diane, who is she?" I asked curiously. "Sorry for forgetting to introduce you earlier." Diane laughed before pointing towards Lily. "This is Lily. She's very interested in you." Lily stole a glance at me before shaking her head after some hesitation. "I just came to see." Diane sighed heavily. "Women need to learn how to enjoy themselves more. Too bad you won't get any share of our fun tonight. Andrew, let's do it again so that she'll feel envious," Diane said as she pushed me down onto the bed while Lily watched nervously beside us. Taking advantage of the situation, I made a request. "Sis, please call me often from now on. My heart was pounding when you didn't come around these past few days." Diane finished off the last bite of cream before lying obediently in my arms, saying, "Sure thing. From now on, only order from you." Feeling pleased with myself, I couldn't help but revel in my newfound status. However, I never expected that this would be the beginning of my downfall. For several days in a row, Diane brought Lily with her. I deliberately exaggerated my movements, and even Lily felt embarrassed, saying that we were crazy. During our chat, Diane told me Lily is a sculptor. Despite her elegant and gentle appearance, she can't resist a perfect sculpture. She's crazier than us. Why did she come to the hotel if she's not sculpting at home? I was puzzled. "Well," Diane said, "she believes that experiencing life more will help her create sculptures with more vitality." Artists' minds are really hard to understand. I nodded in agreement, although I didn't fully understand it myself. As someone in our line of work, all we needed to do was listen to the customers. With Lily around, I could clearly sense that Diane became unusually excited and had even more fun. Another week passed by when one day I waited for Diane in the private room as usual. But she didn't show up until noon, 3 hours later than usual. Thinking something must have happened on her end. And since it wasn't my shift today anyway, so without waiting any longer, I packed up my things and prepared to go home. As soon as I stepped out of the hotel door, I saw Diane's car parked outside. I wondered why she hadn't looked for me yet. Just then, the car door opened, and there sat Diane wearing sunglasses and red leather jacket. A tall man who wore our hotel uniform walked towards them. When he saw Diane, he hugged her passionately. It was Dwight. He was tall and muscular. I recognized him immediately. The next second, he got into the car with Diane. They cuddled together intimately while making playful noises. I was dumbfounded. Dwight was actually with Diane, and they were going out delivering food. Didn't he say it's dangerous? Why is it okay for him to go, but not me? Damn. So he was trying to steal my Diane before I could run over and confront them. The car had already sped away. I finally saw Dwight's true colors. He was definitely not someone to be messed with. I treated him like a brother, but he treated me like a fool the next day I found Dwight. He was combing his hair with a smile on his face. I grabbed his collar and asked, "Why did you steal my client?" Dwight was stunned at first and asked, "What are you talking about?" I sneered coldly and said, "Don't deny it. I saw you get into her car last night. You didn't let me take the delivery service while you went yourself." Is that what you call being good to me? You're just deceiving me. After listening to me, Dwight fell silent for a moment before saying, Andrew, please believe me. Delivery is really dangerous. I have my own reasons. I only believe what I see with my own eyes. I left Dwight speechless. Soon after, Diane came, over swaying her hips and hugged Dwight's hand intimately. She smiled coquettishly and said, Andrew, sister wants to try something new lately. Come find me again next time. Finally, Dwight glanced at me without hesitation before turning around and getting into the rolls. Royce with Diane. I was so angry that I regretted not punching him in the face earlier. If I trust you again, then I'm an idiot. Just wait. Sooner or later, I'll win back this client. After this incident, Dwight and I completely broke off our relationship. We didn't contact each other for a week until one day when Dwight's mother suddenly called. Me? Andrew, why can't we reach Dwight by phone all of a sudden? What happened? Did something happen? Auntie, we haven't been in touch recently, so I am not sure either. Andrew, you live nearby. Can you help Annie check on him? Dwight never goes a week without calling home. Please do me this favor. I am too far away. Okay, Auntie. I had to agree since both our parents knew each other, and it would be impolite not to help. Dwight's phone was turned off, so I had to go to his house.
I thought it would be awkward when we met again, but after knocking for a while.
There was no response from inside the house. Is he not at home today? Just as I was about to knock one last time, the neighbor came out and said, Young man, nobody lives here. Huh? The tenant hasn't been back for 7 days. After chatting with him for a while, I found out that the old man was Dwight's landlord. It turned out that Dwight wasn't just not at home today, but hadn't returned in 7 days. The old man took out his key and opened the door of Dwight's apartment, which was very small with only one bed and one table before reaching its end. There was a photo of Dwight and another young man wearing hotel uniforms on the table. Although Dwight introduced him as his good brother before, I had never seen him in person. The old man started packing up things, muttering under his breath, not paying rent or answering calls. I've seen many freeloaders like this guy before. Watch me throw all this stuff outside until he comes back. Don't worry, maybe something has happened recently. I tried persuading him. He happens to have trouble paying rent now. The old man sneered sarcastically. Do you know what he does? He works as a midnight cowboy in some rundown hotels. Are you doing the same thing as him? As he spoke, he angrily packed up everything, including bed sheets into boxes, then threw them into the hallway while scolding me. I could only carry Dwight's things back to my house first. 7 days ago, the last time I saw Dwight was when he got into Diane's car. If he hadn't returned in 7 days, it was likely that he was still at Diane's place. On my way home, I called Diane. Fortunately, for the convenience of delivering food, we had exchanged contact information before. Diane answered the phone quickly, and I could hear her breathing heavily on the other end. It made me feel uneasy. Dwight had indeed overstayed his welcome at Diane's house for 7 days without stopping. I just wanted to finish the call as soon as possible. Sis, can you please tell Dwight that Andy can't reach him and ask him to return my call? Dwight, the tall and strong one. Diane replied intermittently, while clearly being preoccupied with something else. Yes. I also want to get in touch with him, she said. I was confused by what I heard. Diane, isn't he still at your place? He went back home a long time ago. What? When did he leave? He left that night, she said with a hint of resentment in her voice. If you manage to contact him, tell him to come see me sometime. There will be benefits for you too. She then scolded someone before returning to our conversation. Don't be so rough. I wasn't interested in hearing about any benefits from Diane. All I could think about was where Dwight might have gone. How could a grown man disappear into thin air? Suddenly, it hit me. 2 words came to mind. Missing person. Diane, I'm afraid I won't be able to contact Dwight anymore. He may have gone missing. There was silence on Diane's end of the line. Missing? Are you kidding me? He's a grown man, she exclaimed before abruptly ending our conversation. Oh well, forget it. Bye. Sis, this is serious. I need to report this. But before I could say anything more, Diane shouted, Don't report this. If you do, the police will come looking for me and my husband will find out. Everything. I'll give you $30,000 if you don't report this. Diane suddenly became serious, which caught me off guard. Sis, if you dare to report this, I'm done for. And so are you. After hanging up the phone, I hesitated for a moment before dialing 911. A missing person was a big deal. I couldn't let my conscience be swayed by $30,000. Just as I was about to make the call, a message came in confirming that the money had been transferred. At the same time, Diane sent me a message too. Andrew, I heard that your sister is sick. Consider the $30,000 as medical expenses. I have also arranged for the best doctor in the city for you. As long as you listen to me, I guarantee that your sister will recover from her illness. But if you make me unhappy and something happens to your sister, how can your mother bear it? Between a friend and a blood-related sister, who is closer to you? You should know better. After reading the message, I tightly held my phone. With Diane's help, my sister's illness that had been dragging on for so many years finally had a chance of improvement. It wasn't just about the $30,000. Finding a good doctor was even harder. It has already been 7 days since Dwight disappeared. If we wait 2 more days and he still doesn't show up, what if he just went off to do some private work? He's such a strong person. Nothing could happen to him. Without calling the police, I could find him myself. I took a deep breath and made up my mind before dialing his number. Aunt, Dwight is fine. His phone broke down due to work being too busy, and he didn't have time to fix it. Is there anything else? Let me tell him. Nope. Just wanted to check on how he's doing lately. It's good that everything is okay. After hanging up the phone call with Aunt Lion, Dwight's aunt guilt filled my heart as I drove home feeling lost. On the way back home, while listening to news broadcasted over car radio. Recently, there has been an unsolved murder case in our city. A hotel worker got into conflict with their employer when they were out of town was drugged by their employer before being tied onto a table where they were brutally murdered. Hearing these words and thinking of Dwight, I felt that chill run down my spine. I couldn't help but think about the first time Diane drugged me and tied me to a table. What if something happened to Dwight too? Could it be that Diane didn't want me to call the police? Not because she was afraid of her husband, but because she was worried that her crime would be exposed. I dare not continue thinking further. The car radio continued broadcasting news reports. Besides murder cases, there were also several unsolved midnight cowboy disappearance cases. I hurriedly turned off the radio as I couldn't bear listening anymore. My heart was in turmoil. Should I report this or not? For the next few days, I wandered around looking for Dwight's friends and places he might have gone to but found nothing. Due to the murder case involving Midnight Cowboy being brought up publicly, our hotel had closed temporarily, so we lost our source of income. Meanwhile, my sister's hospitalization expenses were adding up every day. Some people weren't affected by this situation much since they could still provide delivery services. However, I dare not do so myself as Diane had called me several times asking me to join them, which I politely declined each time. If she is really the murderer, then her invitation would be like walking into a trap. One day, while feeling anxious about everything going on in my life lately, an unfamiliar phone number called me with silence on their end for over 10 seconds before finally speaking softly. Is this Andrew? Lily? Yes, it's me. Do you remember me? I do remember her. She was a cute girl, unlike any of the wealthy women I've met. What's up? I haven't been paying attention to socializing lately. My mind is on Dwight. Lily's sudden invitation caught me off guard. After some thought, I agreed to meet with her. Lily and Diane are close friends, so maybe I can get some information from Lily about Diane indirectly. If it turns out that Diane is involved in this case, then I'll have to go straight to the police. After tidying up a bit, I arrived at the private dining room that Lily had reserved for us. Lily wore a beige floral dress. Under the white light of the room, her skin looked especially fair and delicate against the floral pattern of her dress. She exuded an elegant and refined aura befitting an artist quite different from someone like myself who was rather vulgar. It was just Lily and me in the private dining room. Perhaps feeling Shy or nervous around me, Lily remained quiet with flushed cheeks and avoided eye contact with me. Half jokingly, I asked, "Is there anything else besides dinner that brings you here today as an artist?" Blushing even more deeply now than before while hesitating for a long time before speaking softly. "I want to sculpt something recently, but need a nude model. I think you're perfect for it," she said finally after mustering up enough courage. "Can you help me?" "Of course I will pay you." Seeing how shy she was when making such a request made me laugh involuntarily. "Sure thing. But actually, what I need isn't payment. Instead, I'd appreciate your help." Upon hearing my response, Lily's eyes lit up immediately. "What kind of help?" Without directly mentioning Dwight's disappearance, I told her that my good friend had stolen Diane as a client and was being supported by her. However, he still owed me money, and I couldn't find him. So I asked Lily to help me locate him. Lily obediently nodded. "That's easy. Just don't let Diane know about this. Please investigate it discreetly for me since we still have business with her, and it wouldn't be good if she found out." "Sure thing. What's your brother's name?" "Dwight." The next day, as agreed, I went to Lily's house and first modeled for her. She took me to a room filled with various nude sculptures. I curiously admired Lily's works. "Lily, you sculpt too meticulously. Even the pores can be seen. And this doesn't look like the size of a normal man." Lily blushed at this. These sculptures were too realistic and made me feel like someone was staring at me. "This must be art." Just as I was admiring them, Lily's voice brought me back. "Are you still wearing clothes?" I hesitated for a moment before realizing that a sculpture model couldn't wear clothes. So I naturally took off my clothes and stood in front of Lily without any discomfort because she had already seen me naked countless times before. It was actually Lily who wasn't used to it. Her eyes wandered around nervously. Seeing her stunned expression, I reminded her, "Do I just stand here like this?" "Not quite yet," she replied. Before I could react, Lily's hands were already on my body and pressed against mine tightly. I smelled a special fragrance, light and elegant, which is probably what artists exude naturally. This elegant artist was now caressing me like a kitten by my side. It felt very special compared to vulgar women. She was pure and even cute. I couldn't control myself anymore. Lily deeply attracted me with her dimples turning red while even. Hearing her heartbeat, my heart began racing faster. But weren't we supposed to create sculptures? Why did we need all these extra things? Did she have feelings for me just when I thought something else might happen between us? Suddenly, Lily withdrew her hand, saying, "Okay?" "Huh. What okay?" Blushing furiously now. She pointed at my body with one finger. "This is the best state for the sculpture. You can maintain it, right?" Well, my body was indeed a bit excited at the moment. "Try your best," she said. Lily covered her face and ran to the side while I stood there with mixed feelings. It seems that I misunderstood myself. After a while, Lily brought over the specialized stone and sculpting knives. I don't know if it's an illusion, but her temperament seemed to have changed when she picked up the knife. She was completely immersed in the sculpture, constantly scrutinizing me with her eyes like a ruler. I stood still and let Lily observe me, which was easy to do for a few minutes, but became difficult after a long time. Whenever I couldn't take it anymore, Lily would come and stimulate me. "Just hold on for a little longer. I'll finish this part soon." With Lily's comfort, I managed to persevere for more than an hour until that part was finally finished. Only then did I breathe a sigh of relief. Even the blood vessels were carved out realistically. It was simply an exact replica. After finishing the sculpture, Lily allowed me to rest for a while, so I quickly went to the bathroom. When I returned to the studio, though, Lily had disappeared somewhere. Boredom set in as I began observing her sculptures. Instead, it must be said that what Lily sculpted was too realistic. Standing among them made me feel like being surrounded by people. At night, it could even be terrifying. Among many sculptures were two covered with white cloth, which piqued my curiosity. What kind of sculpture is under there? Thinking nothing of it, since taking just one look wouldn't hurt anyone or anything else anyway, so off came the cloth. As soon as I lifted it up under dim lighting inside the room, a pair of glowing eyes stared back at me. startled almost causing myself fall into another statue nearby. Dwight? Dwight remained silent, staring at me all along without saying anything. Only then did my attention turn towards his pedestal beneath him, realizing something wasn't quite right here. Summoning courage, slowly approaching closer, only touching the cold stone, did I realize that this was a sculpture. And yet I had been scared by it. Under the dim indoor lighting, those eyes and posture were so lifelike that it was difficult to tell if they were real or not. Moreover, the sculpture had even been painted by an artist. From afar, there was no difference between it and a real person, as if Dwight himself stood before me. I couldn't help but marvel at Lily's superb skills, but wondered why there would be a sculpture of Dwight here. Also, I smelled a faint odor, coming from somewhere. How could there be such an odor? Just as I was wondering where it came from, suddenly hands rested on my shoulders. Already frightened out of my wits again, just now almost causing myself to fall over once more. Turning around, only then did I breathe another sigh of relief, seeing that it was Lily. I was wondering where you were, and here you are. Lily glanced at Dwight's sculpture and then at me. Didn't I tell you? Dwight modeled for me before. I should have moved the sculpture away, but I wanted to be lazy. So I just covered it with a cloth. I went to Diane's house to help you find him. According to her butler, Diane has been keeping a guy outside recently who matches Dwight's description. Once I find out his exact location, I'll let you know. That's great. When I get paid, let me treat you to dinner. After saying that, I covered the white cloth back on. After about 7 days of work, the sculpture was almost complete with smooth lines and intricate details down to every pore. Tired? Have some water. Lily wiped off the sweat from her face and handed me a bottle of water. Thirsty after standing all morning long, I took the water and rested while admiring my sculpture. It was so lifelike that it felt like looking at myself in person. Lily, this sculpture is as realistic as myself now. What else needs improvement? Just one last step left. Finish your water quickly. We will do it together, she said as she poured herself some water too. Okay. I put down my bottle and looked up when suddenly everything started spinning around me. My body became weak all over. Lily. I feel dizzy. I collapsed onto the ground while feeling disoriented. All that remained visible was Lily walking towards me before everything went black again. When I woke up again later on, tied up on a table with Lily smiling at me cynically, it dawned upon me that there must have been something wrong with the water earlier. Thinking about recent murder cases reported in news headlines, along with several unsolved missing persons cases, made an ominous premonition creep up on me. Lily pulled out a sharp bone-cutting knife from behind and made a gentle cut on my thigh, causing blood to gush out while I screamed in agony. She kept touching me like she was admiring her precious treasure, but it only sent shivers of fear down my spine. You will end up just like them, being sliced bit by bit. Lily smiled slightly as she pointed at the sculpture. I saw a bright statue with his eyes staring right at me. Dwight? Then my heart sank as I realized what had happened. It was you. You killed Dwight? Lily nodded and admitted. He had a good physique. Dismembering him took some effort. Now he is forever together with his best friend. After Lily uncovered another sculpture, I felt like I had seen it before. I tried to recall and remembered the group photo taken in the rental house with Dwight's good friend. Did you kill him too? I asked incredulously. Dwight still wants revenge for him, true brotherhood, she replied. And one after another, they even sent you. As she spoke, she stabbed my left thigh with a knife, causing fresh blood to flow out, and tearing pain that made me break out in cold sweat and scream in agony. Lily's hands were covered in blood as she raised her sharp knife towards my left arm. Just as she was about to strike again, I closed my eyes in despair when suddenly the villa door burst open and several police officers holding guns rushed in. Seeing the black muzzles of their guns pointed at her, Lily looked panicked. I breathed a sigh of relief knowing that I was finally saved. The police quickly subdued Lily while she glared at me, viciously warning me not to speak recklessly. Injured by what had just happened, I shouted loudly, "Police! She just tried to kill me and killed my brother." But Lily sneered back at me saying, "Do you have any evidence that proves that? You need to find a body first." without concrete evidence linking her directly to murder charges against her would only be for intentional injury rather than homicide, which meant that if convicted, she would only serve a few years before being released from prison. The police immediately searched the entire villa, but found nothing unusual, prompting Lily's arrogance. "You see, no evidence, yet you accuse me of murder." Taking matters into my own hands, I pulled out a recording pen, capturing every word spoken by Lily, who began looking increasingly nervous, slowly approaching White's sculpture as though he were still alive, silently apologizing for what had happened, then picking up an easel and smashing it against the sculpture. Suddenly, a red liquid flowed out of the crack, and the sculpture accompanied by a pungent smell that made me feel nauseous. Suppressing my disgust, I smashed the sculpture to pieces, causing a human head to slowly fall out. He had opened his eyes, filled with fear. He was Dwight. The stench from that day came from inside the sculpture, which no amount of sealing could cover up. It was because of this that I suspected Lily and took precautions by contacting the police beforehand. I closed my eyes tightly, unable to bear looking any further, leaving everything else for the police to handle. Lily widened her eyes. "And disbelief? How? How did you find out? This can't be." After investigation, 4 bodies were found at Lily's home, all belonging to missing persons who she dismembered and hid inside sculptures, including myself as her 5th target. Due to refutable evidence, Lily was arrested and charged with intentional homicide, resulting in her being sentenced to death. Antifu was related to one of the deceased, received news from authorities, and immediately fainted. Upon hearing it, I stayed with her at hospital for several days, sharing all my difficulties while blaming myself for not finding Dwight earlier. But Antifu didn't blame me, since even if I had reported him missing earlier than when he disappeared 7 days ago, he would still have died anyway. According to police investigations, which revealed that besides killing Dwight, Lily also killed 3 midnight cowboys working at nightclubs providing delivery services, frequently patronized by wealthy women whom she had close ties with, making them easy targets for murder. She was obsessed with sculpture, always feeling that the cold plaster could not give soul to the sculptures. Only by injecting human flesh and blood could they come alive. I almost became one of these souls. Dwight didn't deceive me. The food delivery service is really dangerous. He has been investigating the truth behind his brother's disappearance and looking for the culprit who made midnight cowboys disappear. He wasn't trying to steal my business. He was protecting me. In the end, however, he got himself into trouble. The murder case involving a wealthy woman caused a sensation nationwide. The exposure of midnight cowboys and nightclubs reached an unprecedented level, forcing almost all hotels to close down or even go bankrupt. I lost my job too, but I dare not continue being midnight cowboy anymore. Dwight's death always reminds me not to risk my life for money. Fortunately, Diane apologized and helped my sister find a specialist who cured her illness. Life goes on, and I became a delivery man, running errands honestly and earnestly in real food delivery services instead of chasing quick money as midnight cowboys did before. After all, it's better to cherish every day we have now than overdraw our future like him. Well, the story has come to an end. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We have more videos available. Please visit and subscribe to our YouTube channel.